So that was interesting what happened yesterday. I mean, it wasn't interesting anything he said, but I think it was interesting just to be in the room with him. You know, there was a few reasons why I needed to see AJ Miller. I know that he's the guy who inspired the Bible, but ever since, I found that I believe this since in 2013, right from the beginning, because I noticed that the Bible was about Christ and about Israel and about just lots of different things that seemed to link to me. But this one thing didn't link to me, which was this Jesus character, this person who lived 2,000 years ago, who was crucified, and just the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I mean, he in that book, Jesus says lots of shit and lots of things that I don't agree with. Do I think AJ Miller said any of that stuff? No, I don't. I think that I think there was stories that got turned into sort of myths about him, and 300 years later, it got turned into a Bible, and it started from him, though, I do believe, and I needed to meet him because I guess over the years I have been saying a lot about him, or I've said things about him, and I was wondering if people went over to see him and to try and like work with him or something. I've been talking about the singers and celebrities a lot, and I feel like if I name a singer, they get a little bit more fame than what they would have had if I hadn't have named them or picked up on them, and I guess I wanted to know if he was experiencing the same thing. But yeah, after after speaking with him, I think it became clear that his only real goal was to serve himself, and to believe that I think he must have a lot of madness in him. The stuff that he was saying was not insightful, was not interesting, was not truthful, was not you can't get to know God's love and understand God's love if you don't know who God is. Part of my love is to actually know who it is that I am talking to, and to talk back in a similar kind of way. If people are showing me hatred, I will show them hatred back, and that this is love. Why? Because this is giving them a taster of their own medicine. If people are horrible towards me, I think it's kind of a loving thing to actually be horrible towards them, because they will get a reflection of how you feel. If you come up to me and say that I'm possessed by demons, I would have no problem even telling that you are possessed by demons, even if it's not what I agree with. And I feel like I'm doing that out of love, because these people need to know how bad it is to feel to be called a demon. When that guy was chucking me out the church, he did yell at me that I was a demon, and I said, no, you are, and I don't believe in demons, so it's not a true statement, but I guess it's out of love that I would respond in the same kind of way to me. If you've hurt me, I want to hurt you back in the same kind of way, and probably hopefully do it a bit more in a more intelligent way. But yeah, there's just a lot of things that he was saying. You can't understand God. Well, you can't understand God unless you know God, and just everything. It wasn't interesting or intelligent or and I feel like anyone who would just sit and listen to us, no one really spoke to him. At the end they were all not very speaking to him. So I think he must have got his followers and in his preaching and stuff to say, I don't have conversations with you. He didn't want to argue. He didn't want to discuss it. He was just like, these are my views. If you want to come to my meeting, you have to just come, sit, listen, and then go. And I just felt like this was very much a robotic audience. He's been attracting a bunch of robots. But yeah, on the bigger scheme, the robots are the ones that I kind of want to leave. There's too many people here, and I want the dummies to leave. And if you're someone who just doesn't question anything, and there were people writing notes. At the end, they were writing notes, and I just couldn't understand, like, what kind of notes are you... Soul broken, need to remove pain to heal soul. Like what are you writing? I mean, I think that's probably what they're writing, and it's just like, yeah, this is not the truth. your soul can't be healed. Your soul is just your consciousness, and it's your imprint of all your past lives mixed together, and you can't change your past lives. You can't change your past. You can be a better person now, but you can't do that by healing the soul. You have to do that by healing your mind and your viewpoints and your perspectives, and your soul will just develop along with you, because that is your soul. Your soul is just a bunch of memories, and okay, if you change your future past, your soul might change, but it's not going to. It's going to change because it's just got new memories and new subconscious memory. That's what a soul is, subconscious memory. So if you don't remember things, your subconscious memory will. But how accurate, how truthful, I don't know. I think it's best to just say your soul is your soul, and that's all it is. Heal your mind, heal your intelligence, get smarter and stuff like this. But yeah, it's another thing I noticed is he never did any preaching of the Bible. There was 2 topics: finding God's love and healing your soul. Those are the only 2 topics that he spoke about. I have no idea how someone can speak about those 2 topics for 4.5 hours. That's it seems crazy how he could just talk about something that I don't believe in at all. But yeah, I think his role or his purpose, as what the reasons why I went to go and see him, is because I wanted to know, one, if he was working with the Illuminati in any way, if he knew anything about them, and I'm convinced that he doesn't. I'm convinced that if the Illuminati or people who know about me have gone to approach him, I'm convinced that they would probably not be very impressed, and they would probably just think this guy is talking a load of bullshit. He believes that he's right, and you can't tell him that maybe he should start doing more intelligent stuff, because this is not. But yeah, you don't. I don't even know what to say to him. Like I wanted to just tell him who I was and see how he responded, and I didn't. Other than that, I didn't know what else to say, because I couldn't ask any questions about what his teachings were, because his teachings just seemed like total crap, and I think anything I would have said would have just been insulting. How can you fix your soul when you don't even know what a soul is, and how can you love God if you don't even know who God is? That's and there was also some questions about why he believes in God. I was looking around at the design of the world, and there must be a God. There must be a God. Like, this was his kind of preaching. It's like, okay, you're looking at the world and you think there must be a God, and that's your preaching. So you're not actually showing any real evidence. You're not actually showing any real conclusion. He didn't touch on the Bible at all. He's given everyone in the room 4 massive thick books, Bible books. So they're about that big in total, because there's 4 of them. And in this preaching, he goes on about just finding connection with the Father and love with, I don't know, it's just there's a lot of mention about the Father in the prayer thing that he had. It's I actually need to show it. Because but I'll just talk about this for a second. He didn't do any connection with the Bible, and therefore he sees the Bible as just something that was created after him. And that's not how I see it. I see the Bible as something that was created by the Spirit, something that God made. The Spirit links to God, and that's how I know I'm God. I know that I'm God because there's some evil spirit that is linking people and their lives and their choices and their songs, and it's linking it to my daily life. And I guess because they've been ignoring me for 12 years, I want to know what else the Spirit is doing, and I know that the Spirit is inspiring the Bible. I don't like the Bible, and I don't like how it's promoting a false Jesus, and it's promoting this guy. Like, out of all the people to promote, you're promoting this. I don't know. He's like a robot. He was like a robot because he didn't seem to realise how silly some of the things that he was saying were. But yeah, there's a lot of stories in it that have 2 sides. You can see it from the king's perspective, or you can see it from the woman's perspective, and that's the same thing with all the stories. You can see it from the servant's perspective, you can see it from God's perspective, and if you see it from God's perspective, he's just an evil monster. But if you see it from the servant's perspective, it shows something else. Like, lots of different stories say lots of different things. If the church that I set up want to have Bible studies, and if they want to teach the Bible. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but they need to show the two perspectives. You've got, this is what the Bible says, and this is the perspective of the Bible, and then this is what Anna says, and this is Anna's perspective. And I feel like through my perspective, I can actually teach things. And so this is the difference between my teachings and his teachings. You know, mine is actually about looking at what the Spirit has done, the Spirit that has come from me, yes, and I've done 70 timelines, so I create a Bible in every one. I create a Jesus in every, you know, the Spider-Man had a show, a multiverse kind of show, and I never really understood why you did that, because to me that just sounded like really confusing, and you're never going to understand it. But that Spider-Man character definitely did remind me of AJ Miller, because I have such a clear vision of sitting by a pool talking with an AJ Miller, and who looks exactly like he looks now, although in my view he actually looks a little bit younger. In my view he looks a bit younger, and yeah, I feel like there is a multiverse, because I've done 70 timelines and this is the 70th one I've done. Okay, it's not really a multiverse because they're not all at the same time. I do believe that I'm probably about 14 billion years old, and so the 70 timelines that I've done have fitted in with this 14 billion time scale, with probably gaps. I'm sure there was loads of gaps in between, but yeah, I feel like that. I've actually got a picture of the Spider-Man now. I just clicked on what's it, that guy, that preacher guy, Ruslan. I just clicked on his video and I was just watching it for a second, and then I saw that he used some of the Spider-Man multiverse clips, and then I thought, actually I need to talk about AJ Miller and just talk about how it kind of reminded me of this Spider-Verse. AJ Miller did remind me of the Spider-Man universe. Why? Because I'm sure none of the Spider-Mans or none of the Jesuses that I create are as dim-witted and slow-minded as the one that I've created in this timeline. I mean, this one just didn't want to know me, didn't want to help me, didn't want to talk to me, I felt nothing, and I don't feel like he's got, I think his connection is very, very weak, and I think he's got an inverted connection, and there's some things in the prayer that he's saying that I actually felt. There's this prayer that had like a mushroom on the picture, which is really crazy, but it's almost like it was the opposite. It was almost like it was an inversion of what I actually thought. I'll search you in a bit, but yeah, I do feel like this is the worst AJ Miller that I've ever had, and therefore, you know, the world has given me absolutely nothing. You've not given me money, help, funding. You've not spoken to me, nothing. And I like to give people what they give me, and if AJ Miller is the Antichrist, if he's supposed to represent what all the people in the world sort of worship, and or they don't worship him because they worship the comforted version of him, the sort of the glorified version that got changed into some sort of god or deity, then that's what they worship, something that can save them. And I think AJ Miller knows that he's never going to get to the position that he wants, because people are never going to agree with the teachings that he's teaching, because he's teaching a load of nonsense, and I think he knows this, and but he still has this. The spirit is making, the spirit that's in my spirit is inside of him, and it's making him want to preach and want to talk. But I feel like it's got something inside of him that also says, don't say anything that Anna agrees with, and because of that, he's now not knowing, his spirit is not knowing what to preach. He can't preach about the Bible, because even though I don't agree with it, in a way I do. There's a lot of stories that have two sides to it, and if you look at it from a different perspective, you know, the perspective that the God is the evil one, and the women are the good ones, but why are you worshipping this story? Or there's, I don't know, I've written a Bible on my Facebook, and my Bible is all about going through the different stories and explaining an intelligence, something I can teach through it. You know, people should seek knowledge, people should seek wisdom, people should seek different types of understanding. He was preaching that you need God to understand, but he was also saying that you can't understand God. And therefore, if there's anything that he says that you don't understand, it's only because you don't understand God. But by loving God, you will learn to understand. And I don't know what he was saying, because that's what it sounded like he was saying. You can't love someone you don't know. That's just a fact. And it's yeah, it was a very bad. If there's a multiverse, and I've done 70 AJ Millers that are all come back knowing that they're Jesus, this is probably the worst one that I've come across, because I don't even want to know him or help him. You know, I don't believe I usually feel this way, but considering how the world has treated me, for 12 years they've given me no money, no funding, no help, and I think if I was to get 144,000 people on the same day, at the same time, to promote that AJ Miller was this Jesus of Nazareth, I don't know what will happen, but I would be curious to know how he responds to that, you know. Will he remember me telling him that this is going to happen? No, I don't think he will remember it. I don't know if he'll remember or not. I don't know, but I know that the fame might go to his head until a whole bunch of people start calling him the Antichrist, and then I think he hasn't done much promoting in the last few years. You know, he's definitely stayed on the very low, on the very quiet, and you know, he was talking about all the stuff that's going to happen, and I think when I was trying to tell him that the Illuminati are going to help raise him up, I think he was getting confused between the Illuminati raising him up and God raising him up, because he thought that God was going to raise him up, and he keeps saying that he needs a lot of healing to do first, but I don't think he's ever going to heal. Like his vibration, his lowness, his intelligence is just so low that I don't think it's going to happen in this lifetime, and I think he knows that. But at the same time, he's still the AJ who inspired the Bible, and the world worships the Bible. You know, when it comes to the church, I went to the church the other day to talk to. Happened to be actually on the Assumption of Mary. I ended up going to a church to have a conversation, to find the gates closed and no one wanting to talk to me. So yeah, I am not Mary. And if you were, I don't know, but I don't know why the Assumption of Mary was chosen on that day. And I don't think when I went, I don't think I even knew it was, or maybe I did. I can't remember. I don't know. I knew it was coming up around this time, and that was just the day they gave. But yeah, I think the truth about the Assumption of Mary is that it's actually, that date was set because it's supposed to be a reminder of Mary wanting to rise, going to the church, and just having no response, no one talk to her. But I know when it comes to the church, I'm fighting against millions of people or billions of people. I don't know how many Christians there are. There's a lot of Christians or people who call themselves cultural Christians. So I feel like I'm fighting against a whole army that's against me when it comes to Christianity. When it comes to AJ Miller, I don't feel that way. I feel like it's just a small bubble of robots, and him also being like the head robot, and him liking this sort of head robot. So I don't feel like I'm fighting against him. So I don't feel like I didn't feel the need to tell him that I was God. I wanted to tell him that I was Eve, but because he responded so badly, I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you anything, but I definitely still want him to be promoted as being the AJ Miller. But yeah, I don't, I don't understand why Harry thinks that he can't come to England because he doesn't have enough security or enough money for security. I don't understand. England's a safe place, and I don't think he needs security. But AJ Miller will definitely need security. If he's going to have a huge number of people saying that yes, he is the Jesus of Nazareth, he's probably going to need security, and I just don't think I care enough to give him, or to want to give him that. And considering the world has treated me just so badly, I think it's a shame, for someone to go 20 years, because he's believed he's Jesus for 20 years, just for someone to go 20 years believing that you're Jesus, knowing that the whole church has just kind of turned against you and formed a religion that's nothing to do with you. And I think this is why he thinks the Illuminati is against him, because he thinks the Illuminati are probably the ones that have set up this, the false Jesus and stuff. But yeah, he was certain that the Illuminati is against him. But I'm the leader of the Illuminati, so it was almost like he was telling me that I am against him because I'm the leader. I didn't tell him that part, but his spirit was telling me that even though he himself didn't know who he was talking to, and he didn't like the idea of me being his equal. Like the idea of me being above him would have just been completely out of his head. But the idea of me being his equal and going through a similar thing, and because I said there were other people who I know I met in my past life, and he didn't respond to that well at all. Like no, like very, very angry at the possibility that I've gone through a similar thing to him, and I would not be like that. If someone told me they were God, I would want to know, like, why do you think you're God? What's your reasoning behind it? And he just didn't want to. I didn't say that, but he didn't want to know my reasoning as to why I thought I'd had a past life. And there's lots of people who have had a past life. Loads, reincarnation is the truth. Lots of people have had a past life, and if he can't accept that, then he's definitely not accepting truth. And it's a very interesting image what I've got on this one. I've got, I think this is the Spider-Man, but she's looking very, you can't see the face. The face, you can't see her face in this, but it looks too, I don't know why it's not. She looks like she's just going, like questioning him. Anyway, you can't see it on that picture, but yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling, like I'm just looking at AJ Miller, just being like, why you? Out of all the AJ Millers, why would you be like this? That, surely you would want to work with me or help me, and I don't know. I think it's because my spirit knows what I've gone through, and I think that my spirit knows that what I've gone through is so much worse than what he's gone through. He didn't even want to know. He didn't want to know. I think I did tell him that I understand, only I feel. I did actually. I told him that, how I was when I was asking about the wait, how long do you think it's going to be? And I told him it's killing me a lot more than it's killing you, because it is. You've got followers, and I told him that as well. You've got supporters, and I've had nothing. I've had no support, and I've been trying to. As I asked him how did he get the church, because he said he had to call up 100 churches to find a venue. I think by that what he was saying, he had to call up 100 churches, and all the churches said, no, we don't want to allow you to preach your belief. We believe in Jesus, but we think you're not Jesus. So I'm guessing that most of the churches he called would have probably seen what his work as being blasphemous. So that's why he had to call up 100 churches to find one. But yeah, I was just kind of trying to have a conversation with him, tell me something, how are people responding? It's awful to think that you know something about yourself and they don't know, and how were they responding? And I ended up kind of just saying that, people have treated me incredibly badly, and I just felt like all he wanted to do was treat me badly too. You have no followers or no support because you're not Christ, you're not me, you're nothing to do with me, you are just making things up. That's why people are responding badly. Like, that's how I felt like he felt. Me telling him that I have had a belief that I had a past life, and I've been trying to tell people and I'm not getting a response, so I kind of just want to know how you respond. Me telling him that was just him wanting to say, no, I'm above you, you're below, and later on in the speech when he was talking to the group, he made it very clear that everyone in this room are not God. No one in this God is above God. No one is anywhere near as God. We are all lower beings of the higher God. And I was in the room being like, that's bullshit, because I am God. I am not a lower being of this higher God. No, I am this higher God. And I don't know, but I felt like some of the things that in the first half, I felt like he was looking at me. He was wearing a very colourful, nice top, and I was wondering maybe he knows about me and he's deliberately like wearing a colourful top because he knows that I love colourful tops, and it very flowery, and it was very nice. It was a nice shirt, so I thought maybe he was, and he looked like he was looking at me a lot. Like I couldn't really see his eyes very clearly, but it kind of looked like he was drawn to me or something. But yeah, in the second half I realised he was not looking at me, because he spent most of the time, there was like a pole in between us, and he spent most of the time hiding behind the pole, and I was looking down, and when when people were talking, it looked like he was looking at me, but I could see that actually they were talking, so he was probably looking at them. So I don't know, but I know that there was times in the second one where he said a few things, you think you're better than God, but no, you're not. No, you're not. And just a couple of things that he said almost made it feel like he was thinking about me and what I'd said. I thought I was better than God because of the way I was talking. I was talking a very direct, I know that I've had past lives and I don't care what you believe. I think I did, he was getting a bit rude with me and I was getting a bit, I don't know if I said I don't care what you believe, but I said I don't care if you don't believe. This is the truth, and I don't think he liked me talking to him like that because he saw himself as being bigger and better. And if you believe that someone's Jesus and that person is saying I don't care if you don't believe me, he's probably in his own mind thinking, but you should care if I don't believe you because I'm Jesus. My views are more important than yours. And if I don't believe something and you do and you're still willing to believe it, then that's just you being foolish. I mean, that's almost how it felt, like me not believing him and not really caring that I don't believe, acknowledging that I don't believe what you believe, but not caring. I think he didn't. I don't think he liked it. I don't think he liked it, and I think some in his preaching later had a couple of just a minor. I mean, it was a very long, it was about a 3-hour thing. So if you were to listen through the whole 3 hours to just find these couple of jabs, it might probably not worth it. But I just felt like there was a couple of jabs in there that just might have been aimed at me, and I don't care because I know that I'm right.